Coming to you from Corewell Health. This is your house call.
What's the fastest growing sport in America? It's good for your mind, body, and soul. If you guessed pickleball, you guessed right. If you've never played the game, it's time to pick up a paddle and reap the benefits of this amazing sport. Hello and welcome to HouseCall. I'm Dr. Asha Shahjahan. Our goal is to help you and your family live smarter and healthier lives. Today we're going to talk about the sport of pickleball. It's kind of like tennis, sounds like badminton or table tennis, but it's none of the above. It's this life-altering experience that has 4.8 million players nationwide, which is almost double the amount that was playing 5 years ago. If you haven't heard of it, this game has been around since the 1960s, and it's really gained momentum during the pandemic. Joining us today is Jeff Kline, Director of Sports Medicine at Corewell Health's Beaumont Hospital, Taylor. Jeff, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So, Jeff, break it down for us. Why is pickleball the fastest growing sport in America?
I think it's unique. It's not exactly like playing tennis or badminton. It's slightly different. It is capable of being played indoors and outdoors. And I think it's something new that people are interested in trying out. They hear the name like, oh my gosh, what is that? Well, you have to come play it. Yeah. And, the peer pressure builds.
So here's my question. A lot of the listeners might be thinking, people who've never played, like, okay, it sounds like a mixture of a lot of sports. This sounds complicated. Is it complicated, and how easy is it to play?
It's not complicated at all. It's played on a court that's about half the size of a tennis court area. It does include a net. You can play singles or doubles. It's played with a lightweight paddle, so it's not even as big as a tennis racket, and you play it with a wiffle ball. The rules are straightforward, very similar to tennis, but everything is right in front of you, and the pace can be dictated by the level of competition that you desire to pursue, I guess.
Why are older adults getting addicted to this game? People say this is a game for people that are a little bit older, but like people of all sorts of ages have been playing the game. What are some of the benefits of playing?
I think it's a combination of things. It's a unique sport. It's not the same as tennis. You could literally play it by putting on a pair of average tennis shoes and showing up at your local fitness club that has a court and an organized setting for it. And you can play one game, you can join a league, you can play competitively across the state, across the nation. It's very easy, very adaptable.
Some of the benefits people were saying were that the paddle is much lighter. So if you've got like carpal tunnel or like wrist issues or joint issues, you're not having as much wear and tear on your joints. And I think there's a lot of sports that can be very intimidating to try. I'll be honest with you, when we started talking about doing this podcast, I had never played pickleball. And I did pick up a paddle, and I did find someone to play with. We just walk down the street to there's a couple tennis courts in our neighborhood, like just in neighborhood parks. So we actually played on a tennis court. And, started off, I watched the YouTube video and I was like, okay, I can do this underhand serve, let it bounce. Let's see how this goes. Actually, I was sweating. And I was running back and forth across the court. And it was like, I was like, wow, this was a workout. The whole addiction thing that people talk about, I'm like, okay, let's play every Thursday. Let's do this. Let's get a group. I think the thing is that it has a lot of health benefits that you alluded to. It does help your cognitive health as well. It improves your mental health. It's a great exercise for weight loss. I mentioned it improves like hand-eye coordination, flexibility, those types of things. What have you seen in terms of people that have rotator cuff injury or bad knees? Is it a good idea to try to play this game?
We tend to want to pick up and start off where we think we left off. So as an adult grows into growing children and advancing in school, we're not as active. We think we are. We think we're still in our 20s, but the reality is we're not. And so we try and pick up right where we left off. And so that becomes part of the problem. You really should be maintaining a year-round level of fitness as opposed to jumping right into something, having gone from the couch to, say, a 5K race or a competitive pickleball match. That can alleviate a lot of those problems. um, playing with those injuries or conditions, from years past, I think it's very possible. You just have to keep it in perspective. And again, we can't just go from the couch to I'm going to play in a league 2 days a week and not expect to have some of those types of problems. But pickleball in general is a lot less stressful on the joints. There's still some running involved. If you choose to play at that more intense level, and there's not a great deal of the overhead shoulder action that takes place in pickleball. So it's all underhand or, below the horizontal level of the shoulder. And that is extremely attractive to people with, older rotator cuff injuries and things like that.
I think the other thing is a lot of my patients have been saying, like, okay, I want to get back to the gym, or I want to do something to kind of help my cardiovascular health. I now have high blood pressure. I have a family history of heart attacks and strokes. Maybe I've gained a little bit of weight. And then I have a lot of older women that are worried about things like osteoporosis and their bone health. So they ask me, like, what is it that I can do that it doesn't feel so monotonous as like maybe going to a gym and getting on a treadmill. And so, I'll say, why don't you look at the local neighborhoods, see what's going on? Have you heard of pickleball? And I have a funny story to tell you. So my dad was really good at badminton and also table tennis. And so pickleball is kind of newer to me. I've heard of it, but I've never actually watched how it's played. So once I played, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to play with my dad on the weekends. This is going to get him out of the house and get him active. So I was like, Dad, have you ever heard of pickleball? And he just looked at me and was like, yeah, it's kind of like tennis and a little bit like badminton. I'm like, how do you know this? He's like, everyone plays it. Like, we know this. So I was a little out of the loop there. That's talking about my father who's in his 70s. And then I call my sister up who, she's got kids that are 7 and 5. And I said, what would be a really good way to get the kids out of the house is maybe trying to start playing pickleball, because some of these other sports are a little bit more challenging and difficult for young kids to really get out, like to help build their confidence. So I love the fact that it's versatile in that sense. But by no means do I want to downplay the intensity of the sport, because there's people like LeBron James, Tom Brady playing the game, but then you also have Bill Gates and Selena Gomez. It's a wide variety of people, and I think that to me got me curious about, like, okay, so maybe I should start. So what are some of your suggestions for people that are listening and they're like, all right, okay, they've kind of convinced me that maybe I'm gonna try to play this. How do you start?
You had a great point. You find out what's in your neighborhood. The local YMCA, it's an attraction for people to come to their center and play pickleball. The outdoor courts are probably being asked or requested to include, can we designate one area for pickleball only and mark it off and make it such? There are many, many places that you can look to very close by to join. I think the fact that it is very unintimidating, anybody can play it, all ages. You do not have to play it at a world-class elite level. You can enjoy it with your family, your neighbors, people that you don't even know, and you can choose the intensity of that competition. And to start, again, if you were to walk down to your fitness club or to the YMCA, they have all the equipment there for you. You don't even need to buy anything at all. So easy, quick start.
There are still sometimes injuries that can occur, as you mentioned earlier. What are the most common things that you've seen?
It's still very straightforward. The basic overuse of a muscle, so muscle tears, muscle strains, the repetitive work across a tendon or a joint can inflame those tendons and create some of those types of typical problems, tendinopathies or tendonitis. I think the good part with racquetball is because the overhead component is not really there in terms of the serve, you lessen some of that shoulder problem, but you're still moving a racket or a paddle forward and backward. So the wrist is involved. There can be a lot of work and stress through the wrist, the bones, the joints, the tendons, the ligaments. So your tennis elbow and those types of problems are still very present. It's not a fail-safe. or a completely safe alternative in the respect that you're going to avoid all those types of orthopedic problems.
So I think that things to remember is that, yeah, it's easy to play. It's not intimidating, but you still have to kind of practice those safety cautions. One thing I will mention is that since everyone kept downplaying it to me, like, oh, it's really easy, I forgot a water bottle. And I was playing outside and I was drenched in sweat. And I was like, one, I should have brought a towel. Two, I should have brought a water bottle, So like make sure if you're playing outside or inside also. But if, it's been kind of warm outside lately. So make sure you have some of those things with you. What are some things that you want to do maybe before you play? So other than, okay, obviously if it's your very first time, you're looking up the rules, you're learning about like the points and the rallies and the serves and all that stuff. But what should you do physically before you play? Is there, stretching beforehand, or what do you think?
As with any activity, workout, sport, a good dynamic warm-up to get your body ready, prepared for the oncoming session of sport. So even basic calisthenics, jumping jacks, sit-ups, push-ups, jump, skip, run forward, backward, those types of activities. And those are performed at a pretty low level, but they're designed to get your core temperature up, elevated, increase your heart rate just a little bit. If you break a light sweat, then you're doing a really good job at a dynamic warm-up. And that way your body is really prepared for the workout, the sport training, the pickleball match at that point.
Yeah. What I ended up doing was I just did like a quick speed walk, like from my house to the court, just kind of a little faster than the normal leisurely pace. And then did a couple stretches here and there because I was like, okay, I haven't played anything in a really long time. So, but I think in general, it's good to always, stretch beforehand. And then also cool down afterwards once you're done playing it and stay hydrated.
I think for a pickleball match, because it can involve some explosive movements, you're gonna jet to the ball very quickly. Obviously, we want to stretch our calf and our heel cord very, very well and have that ready and prepared for a pickleball match. And then our low back, if we're not very active on a regular basis, some gentle workout, warm up type things for the low back to get that musculature and those ligaments again prepared for. I'm going to draw my arm back. I'm going to rotate my trunk. I'm going to hit a ball and follow through. And that rotation and combined movement of forward movement, backward movement with the rotation can be pretty demanding if we're not prepared for it.
So I think in summary, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America to date. And it's good for all ages, and it has a lot of health benefits. So I'm really going to try to get into this. I'll let you know if I end up doing the Thursday plays. I'm going to try to get my dad to play with me on weekends. I'll let you know if I'm successful with that. But thank you so much for all of your expertise, Jeff. And, good luck with all of their athletic training and keeping everyone safe. Thanks for everything that you do.
I very appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me today.
Till the next time, thanks for joining the House Call. We leave you today with this healthy thought. If you had an injury and you're close to age 65, or you're just curious about this sport that is gained so much popularity in America, pickleball might be right for you. It's fun, it's low impact, and as Jeff said, there's tons of benefits. So maybe this weekend, instead of doing the same old thing, try something new. If you're curious, take a lesson, find a court, and enjoy the benefits of pickleball.